I was going to say happy Monday, but I settled on it's Monday. I don't know. I just felt like...
It's Monday felt appropriate.
I'm wearing a shirt that says the vibes are immaculate because I'm trying to bring that energy into today, but that's a whole other thing. Thank you all so much for tuning into the PHNX Coyotes Podcast. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review. I'm Leah here with Craig, Petey. We got Danielle behind the Mac. How's everybody doing on this fine Monday afternoon?
Petey's dressed in black today. And I'm channeling the future right here.
We kind of went on the blue vibe without coordinating.
Yeah. It's Monday.
Mm.
Yeah. We got a case of the Mondays over here.
We got a case of the Mondays.
All right. Well, we have a lot to get to today. We're going to talk about the winners and losers of the NHL trade deadline now that the dust has settled a little bit. But before we get into all of that, we're going to talk about the Coyotes, of course, compare this season's team to last season's team. We had a huge conversation on last night's show about the rebuild, as someone said in the chat, tank. Craig in Discord this morning, a whole conversation. And you might be surprised to see some of the stats of this year's team versus last year's team. But before all of that, there's some news of the day. Craig.
Yeah, and this is not a big surprise. I think everybody that's in our Discord at least knew that this was coming, and there have been several media stories locally, which probably should include you in as well, that the Coyotes knew this was coming. The Coyotes' pursuit of the land in Northeast Phoenix is officially on the Arizona State Land Department Board of Appeals' final agenda for March 14th. So 3 days from now, it will be on the agenda. That doesn't mean it will actually be publicly posted for auction. What I've heard and what I've reported previously is that will probably take a weekish before that happens. But then we begin the process of waiting to see if other bidders come and then waiting for the actual auction, which will be a minimum of 10 weeks, could be a little bit longer, could go like into mid-June before we see an actual bid. So a step in the process toward possibly securing the land that they will need to build this arena on. Of course, there are a million questions and a million steps that come after that.
There you go. The news of the day.
There it is. The news of the day.
And we will revisit every step.
Yeah,
along the way.
I've got a newsletter coming out later today. I think Espo usually schedules those for somewhere between 5 and 6 p.m.
6 p.m. usually,
6
our
p.m.
time.
So you can read a little bit more about it when you get the newsletter dropped. If you haven't signed up for our newsletter yet, why not? It's free. You don't have to pay anything for it.
And it shows up. You don't even have to do any work because it just appears in your inbox.
It appears in your inbox. Danielle, do we have that link?
Yes.
That we can show
We're going to
people?
drop the link in the chat right now so you
Beautiful.
can easily sign up, and you can select your favorite team. So if you only care about the Coyotes, you can just select Coyotes newsletters to receive. So
here we go. It's arena season. It came a little early, as I discussed in the newsletter, but we will be covering it nonstop, as we always do here.
Yep. All right. Well, that's that update. We will move on now to talk about the Coyotes and where they stand at this point in the season through 65 games. And, you know, I think this season has felt a little different because the Coyotes were in a playoff spot, in a wildcard spot through the beginning of January. And then it seems like the calendar flipped to 2024 and it all went to hell. And it's been, you know, a dark period. I think the fans have been feeling the frustration, and we thought, okay, let's take a look on where the team is through 65 games now versus 65 last year. Last year we were talking about the team competing to get the first overall pick with Bedard, and we were saying, you know, maybe they ended up overachieving, ended up finishing sixth last, picking sixth overall. So I think we should just start with the team. We can discuss that,
Sure.
and then we'll talk about some of the core players. So Danielle, if we can take a look at the season comparison this year to last year through 65 games. So through 65 games last season, the Coyotes had 23 wins, 32 losses, 56 points, and a goal differential of -49. through 65 games this season, the Coyotes have 26 wins, 34 losses, 57 points, and a goal differential of -26. And for those at home, that's only a 1-point improvement through 65.
Are you sure, Leah? That doesn't seem right after being so good.
I'm sure, unfortunately. I'm sure. Yeah. So that's where the Coyotes are. I think it's disappointing. Some other stats. The ties, 10 last year, 5 this year. The home record last year, 16-11-3. This year, 16-16. There's not really much.
And I'm not going to say that recent trends should give you even more pause, but what was the team doing late last season versus what it's doing late this season? Team's playing fairly well late last season, if you remember. This season, not so much. Are they going to reach the same point total as last season? I have my doubts.
What was it? We were 70, Craig? 70 last season?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got 6 more wins. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
17 games to go.
I don't know. And it's funny that we're even saying that when we were talking about the playoffs the first week of January, and now we're saying that they're going to have a worse record than they did a year ago when they were really bad. A couple things jump out to me. One of the biggest one was their record at home. Mullet Arena last year being 16-11, 5 games over 500. Now they're 16-16. I think that's a huge difference. And that 5 games over 500 makes you talk about that's 10 points. And so that one's big to me. Their road records have improved so much from where they were a year ago, or has it? It's a difference of 3 games. We put so much onto this first half of the season that we thought things were going so well, and it really is. It's just the same. It's the same. Like points are the same, wins are the same. It's the same.
It's kind of sobering.
Yeah,
it's kind of sobering.
It is, but it goes back to what Bill Armstrong said was going to happen. This team may not only not a playoff team, but they may take a step backward. We talked about that points wise, and this is exactly what's happened.
Chad points out the +20 goal differential. That's, I guess you can
for
point
now.
That's true. There's still 17 games to go.
They were a plus goal differential, if you remember, as well. I mean, they were.
Well, mostly if you're a playoff team, you generally are.
That's it. Yeah, and they've been going the opposite direction. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm not saying they're going to continue this collapse, but the way they've been playing recently, other than a couple of games, I have to wonder.
Yeah, I think it's shocking. I really do. And when we talked about this exercise last night after the game in Chicago, I'm surprised. I'm surprised it's a 1-point difference. I am surprised. And you look at the standings at this point, they were 28th a year ago. They're 27th this year. I mean, it's 1 spot in the standings and 1 point, and that could disappear by the end of the week.
We're going to talk about the future a little more this week. Petey hasn't even approved the audio podcast yet because he's been too busy.
Well, but, you're also going to write about it.
I'm also going to write about it.
So I just have to read your article.
Yeah.
You also have to read your texts. Yeah. I know that's hard for you sometimes.
Okay. I was busy.
Yeah, you're busy. I know. I got a story coming midweek. Petey and I are going to talk about rebuilds, the reality of rebuilds on our audio podcast. And it's sobering when you look at history, when you look at what other teams have had to go through to not just necessarily to get to the top, because that's an entirely different animal. Winning a Stanley Cup, that's really hard to do, but to be a consistent playoff contender, even that's a long road. So we'll discuss it a little later in the week. But let's get to the individual comparisons.
Yeah. So the season stats, you think, okay, maybe some of the one of the things that we always look to highlight when the team is struggling is individual performances. And I think the one that we kind of circled even before the year started was Clayton Keller and his chase for Keith Tkachuk's single season points record. He tied it last season, 86 points. So through 65 games, and that does not mean 65 games played, it just means 65 games of the season. Where does Clayton Keller stand this year to last? So let's take a look. Last season, he didn't miss any games to injury through this point. Through 65 games, he had 26 goals, 39 assists, 65 points, and was a -9. At the game 65 points for the Coyotes this season, Clayton Keller has played 61 games. He, of course, missed a few games to injury recently, has 25 goals, 30 assists, 55 points, and is minus 23. So he's 10 points off his pace that he was on last season at this mark of the season with 17 games to go for Clayton Keller. He was a point per game player last season, 0.9 this season.
Something we talked about last night, and I'd like Petey to dive into this more. I don't feel like I've seen that killer instinct, that fire from Clayton Keller as consistently as we saw last season when he was coming off the injury, wanted to prove that he could get back. He was really motivated last season. I don't know that I've seen that consistently this season.
You talked about the 200-foot player that Keller was last year, and we talked about his ability to steal pucks and back check and track and push players off the puck. You go, it's a new player. Like, he had this little bite to his game, and I just haven't seen that. And I don't know if it's the changing of the lines or if his just expectations are that he was going to do it again this year just by showing up. I don't know, but I don't see that edge. And he had it last year, and I think that made a difference. You go, oh, he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's got something to prove. He's off this injury. He's got to show what he can do. And I haven't seen it. And I think that he's a better player when he plays like that, when he has a little bit of a bite to his game, because as the numbers bear out, the offense is close. I mean, he's a goal a game versus 0.9 points per game. It's close. I mean, it's in the same universe. It's the goal differential being a -9 to a -23 means to me he's not defending as well, and that means he's not getting pucks back in the defensive zone. He's not tracking well through the neutral zone. Those little details that we saw from Clayton Keller a year ago, we don't see. And I think that that's made a big difference here. You go down the stat lines, and they're so similar. I don't know if I've seen the same player, though. And I don't know if it's some of the things we talked about, Craig, if it's how many years of losing now and no end in sight, and the building sucks still, and we don't know where ownership's going. Are we going to Salt Lake? All of those things, it wears on you. And I don't know if it's hard to go to the rink but pull up your bootstraps and go, okay, I'm going to work super hard again tonight, even though it doesn't matter. We're not going to win, and we still play in the mullet. I don't know. I don't want to say that makes a difference, but this is not the same Clayton Keller we saw in 22-23.
Yeah, and Chad makes a good point too, seeing his plus minus drop that much, but still as a team up from last year's goal differential. So where are we making it up? Interesting point. Roaring Fork also said Keller doesn't have a complimentary 1C, and he knows it. And Barrett Hayton did miss a good chunk of this year. Yep. Who knows how much of a factor that played into the statistics.
Yeah, because we saw Barrett at the end of last year, and Barrett Hayton was a huge part of what Nick Schmaltz and Clayton Keller were able to do through the last 25 games. Absolutely, when Barrett Hayton turned it on, those two players around him got better, and him being gone for most of the season again has definitely probably created some point differential, but it doesn't change the way he plays. And that's the part to me that I think jumps out the most.
Let's move on to another guy. I know this is one a lot of the fans have felt frustrated with as of late, just based on lack of offensive output, and that's Lawson Crouse. So let's take a look at Lawson Crouse's play through game 65 of the Coyote season last year versus this year. Last year, Lawson Crouse at this point had played 60 games, had 21 goals, 14 assists, 35 points, was a +5. This season at the game 65 mark, he's played 64 games, has 20 goals, 13 assists for 33 points, and is a -3. So honestly,
not big difference.
Not a huge difference. Granted, he's played 4 more games, but not a huge difference statistically.
Part of it is he's been slumping a little recently.
A little recency bias.
Yeah, there's definitely recency bias. But also remember, the matchups that line faces on.
They're getting
basis.
The tough matchups.
Tough matchups all the time.
Yeah, he has a different role than what we talked about with Clayton Keller. Clayton Keller gets the offensive zone starts, the first power play starts, all of those things. Lawson Crouse, when he was with Bukestad for the majority of the year, that team, that line throws over. That's who you're defending. Like when McDavid comes over, it's Crouse and Bukestad. When it's Pasternak, it's Crouse and Bukestad. So you're not getting the same quality starts as you are in the offensive zone that you're getting with Clayton Keller. I do find it like people are critical of a guy that's now sitting with 2 consecutive 20-goal seasons. Like, I mean, I know Crouse sees himself as a 30-goal scorer, but a 20-goal scorer in this National Hockey League for a guy in his role is really good.
Yep.
But the problem is Crouse hasn't scored since February 18th. So it's a while. And that was only 1 goal. And before that, it was way back in January. So it's he has 1 goal since January 25th. And that's, you saw him scoring in bunches. You saw him getting those opportunities off the power play. Now, I don't know if playing with Cooley and Gunther is going to help that. And the only reason I say that, I like Lawson Crouse's ability to skate. I think he's a good skater. But Gunther and Cooley are playing at a different pace right now than Lawson Crouse, and it shows in the last few games where you see the number of 2-on-1s that Gunther and Cooley are able to get, and you don't see Crouse by their side because Crouse is in the defensive zone digging the puck out of the corner so that they can go on the 2-on-1s.
Yeah,
and
that's
get those
an important piece.
breaks.
Yeah, that's an important piece to remember. He's the guy down low, right, doing the work.
Right, he's the guy doing the work in the corner. So I think that's ultimately you'll see that show up on the stat line for Gunther and Cooley, and it may not show up on the stat line for Lawson Crouse because Lawson Crouse is doing the work. Although I'd like to see how this line does over a few more games. I've always liked Maccelli with Crouse. I think Maccelli finds Crouse. They just have this little magic together. So hopefully, if he doesn't find it soon with Gunther and Cooley, that you see him back with Matias Maccelli.
Well, let's talk about Matias Maccelli next then. Through 65 game mark. So Matias Maccelli spent a good chunk of last season to this point injured. So through 47 games at the 65 game mark, Matias Maccelli had 5 goals, 29 assists, 34 points, and was a +5. Through 65 games played this season, he has 11 goals, 34 assists, and 45 points, and is a -8. It is a very slight difference of points per game, 0.72 last season, 0.69 this season, but we are seeing an increase in goals scored, which I think was something that we really focused on at the end of last season for Maccelli.
I don't think it shows up on this stat because I know we had to trim some things, but I think Petey had the shot total. Matias Maccelli, and it's significantly higher this year. Yeah.
117 this season compared to 38 last season. And again, it's 18 fewer games, but still, even if you added mathematically, it wouldn't equal what he's done this season.
Yeah, it's 2 shots per game. Last year was less than a shot per game. So it's a significant difference. And I think that was kind of the focus he had over the summer. We talked to him about getting more shots on net, more pucks on net. And I think that showed. He's doubled his goal output. I know he'd like to score more. I know he gets great opportunities and he's getting really good looks. And he's the kid that's going to put it off the pipe. And it seems to be just falling that way for him, like it did for Lawson Crouse 2 years ago, where it just didn't seem to go in for Lawson Crouse. And maybe that'll come for Matias Maccelli. I still think his points total, he's the same player. He was 0.72 per game. He's 0.69. It's the same. He's the same. I like that he's shooting more, and I think he's grown in that area of the game. But when you look at all these stats players, that Clayton Keller is similar, Crouse is similar, Maccelli is similar. They're not. The concern is when you see the team taking this big stride towards the playoffs, you're seeing all of these players about the same.
Mm. Yeah, we'll come back to that in a minute before we do the last player that you want to.
Yeah, one more player, and we'll obviously continue to dive into stats like this, especially as the season wraps up when we get into the off season as well, and we're kind of reflecting back on the season as a whole. But we wanted to highlight one defenseman who's, probably a guy who's part of this team's core and future, and that's JJ Moser. So let's take a look at his comparison last season to this season. Through 65 games last season, JJ Moser had 5 goals, 20 assists, 25 points, and was a -12 at the 65 game mark this season. JJ Moser's played 63 games, has 4 goals, 21 assists, 25 points, so exactly the same, but he's a +3. So there you go. And his time on ice has increased by 21 seconds.
Yeah, so it's the same. I think we were looking for maybe more growth from JJ Moser this year. Honestly, I was. I know I was. I wanted to see a big step forward and to see if he could be something more than he had showed us thus far. Petey, what are your thoughts on him?
Well, it's funny because we talked about he's playing 20 seconds more per game, which significantly that's half a shift. I mean, it's not like he's playing 24 to 25 minutes and he's a +10. I mean, there are times this season where I think I saw what we were expecting out of JJ Moser, but I think there's been too many games where he's okay. He's fine. He's okay. He moves the puck okay. He defends okay. He can be okay coming out of the corner. I really, when I saw him over the summer, we did a big deep dive on video over the summer. And I said, oh my gosh, this guy's really good. Like his stick's really good. He defends really well. He's separating players from the puck. I really like him getting into the corners. He's going to take a big stride this year and the defensive side of his game. And I just don't think that's happened. I think he's okay. And nothing wrong with okay. You need okay defensemen. You do. But I was talking about him being up there with Teppo Newman. And no. That didn't happen this season.
Nope.
Not saying he can't and he can't progress that direction, but he's not the guy that you get on well, yeah, when he's on the ice, you feel safe. You feel you're not going to get scored on, that he's going to defend the rush, that he's going to be able to dig the puck out of the corner. He hasn't been that this year. He hasn't been the guy that's under sticks in front of the net. He hasn't been the guy that you could rely on defensively. Part of it's been his partners. I mean, he's played with Dursey a lot, and Dursey we know is his deficiencies in the back end. So I think that there's some of it there. Yeah, I was hoping for more. And again, this isn't a slight on JJ Moser. He's still a kid. He's still got a lot of development. We talk about development for defensemen takes time. He'll be okay. But
Yeah. So, I mean, the overriding sentiment with these players that we're talking about is they're just kind of the same. We haven't seen a step forward with them. Clayton Keller maybe has taken a step back. We didn't even talk about Nick Schmaltz, who I think you can make a strong argument has taken a step back. Certainly in production, he's also a minus 22. So that's problematic when you're seeing that big a shift. And somebody mentioned earlier, plus minus is a flawed stat. It is. But when you see such a swing from +4 last season to negative 22 this year, that's significant. And Nick Schmaltz, through basically the same amount of games as last year, has 44 points versus 58. So two key players, two key offensive cogs for this team may have taken a step back this year. And then the other players have sort of held serve. So what does that say about the direction of this club? What does that say about the coaching staff? Because, and I'm going to say something after this whole discussion to put this in more perspective. But one of the things that we had been sold on with Andre Tourigny is his ability to connect with younger players and get them to progress. And last year, we absolutely saw it with a number of players taking a big step forward. This year, where have we seen it?
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm concerned yet, because there's so many ancillary factors right now with this team, and we talked about at the top of the show. You talked about the arena and the ownership and the fear of going to Salt Lake. This team is just completely, the wheels fell off once that came out. It has been a different team. We can't argue with the numbers since the Salt Lake City announcement. But you're right, Craig. One of the questions we had coming in was Clayton Keller. Can he continue to sustain what he showed a year ago? And is this what the breakout year for Lawson Crouse? And they're the same. I mean, the team is the same. The players are the same. And I guess you look at the surrounding cast and some of the free agents that they brought in didn't put up the numbers that you saw last year from like a Shane Gostisbehere. With Shane Gostisbehere on the power play, did that help Clayton Keller's numbers? Yeah, it probably did. Did a healthy Barrett Hayton help? It probably did. But you're right. You're not seeing any of even the individual guys going, oh, wow. I mean, Dylan Guenther starts the year in the American League. Logan Cooley's been okay. He's been good. It's been okay. It didn't have that breakout season like you've seen across the league from some other rookies. It's been okay. And it's just been a lot of okays. And I guess with the roster, and you're paying one of the lowest cap teams in the National Hockey League, okay is probably what you're going to get.
Yeah. I just you want to see progress from your younger players. You want to see them continue to take a step forward. So that's one thing to maybe be concerned about. But the last point here is what you mentioned, putting this all in perspective. The danger of just looking at stats, right? And these are superficial stats at that. Like I'm curious, and I want to do this dive at the end of the season, what the analytics say on these guys, if they're showing the same picture or maybe they're not. Maybe Nick Schmaltz, for instance, who I just mentioned this in a story recently, the analytics on him actually look pretty good other than his shooting. So you probably need to do a deeper dive. And then, as you said, you need to take into account the external factors, whether you like it or not. We know when the 14-game winless streak started. It started when Salt Lake news came out. Does it impact guys? You're damn right it does. I'm not saying it's the only factor, but it absolutely has an impact when you think, oh boy, now we're talking about actually leaving. We're going to have to sell our homes. We got to deal with all the issues that creates at home with our wives or our girlfriends or our kids or our parents or whatever else there is to deal with. Yeah, that comes into play. There are a bunch of external factors that, whether you like it or not, impact people just the way they impact us when we come to work. Athletes aren't any different.
Yep,
yeah, I think what it would be interesting though, Craig, is this. I don't want to say this is a lost season. There's 17 games left, right? And I don't think anybody's going to spike to be, oh my gosh, look how great this player is over the next 17 games. I think we're going to see a lot more of what we've seen. But I do want to see happen is some of the outside noise maybe gets quieted. And I don't think it'll happen before the end of the season, but before they start next season, if there's a arena deal and if they get potentially even shovels on the ground by the time the team starts to play games in October, does that help get some things going in the right direction? But the fear I have even then is buildings don't get built in 6 months.
Yeah.
And so if I'm a guy that's been in Arizona for years and years, and I look around and go, what? I got
Yeah.
2 or 3 more years in mullet, maybe?
Minimum 3. Minimum 3.
And really?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to be sit there going, I've been playing in this. Nothing. Again, we love the mullet. Greg Powers, I'm not talking about the mullet. I'm talking for an NHL building for the mullet. I've played 5 years of my NHL career that averages for people in the NHL less than 3, and I've played 5 of them here.
Yeah.
Where will that be the breaking point? You've seen the push from the PA with Marty Walsh and trying to be negative spin on this. Where are the players that are the core of this team now that have been here for a very long time go, okay, buddy, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm done.
and that's I mean, that's a discussion for another show, but I absolutely think that is a storyline to watch. And when we talk about the rebuild and the length of it, that's something to take into account as well. Do guys really want to spend the entire prime of their careers playing at a 4,600 seat arena in the midst of a rebuild? Some of them won't. You can expect that some of them won't, and it's entirely fair for them not to want to.
All right, we'll move on from Coyotes talk for now. But while you're here on YouTube, if you're watching, hit the little like button. We see the little likes come in. It gives us a little boost. It makes us happy. So please support us that way. And you can also support us by becoming a diehard today. When you sign up to become a diehard, you get a free shirt or hat like the one Petey's wearing right now from PHNXlocker.com. Access to our diehard only content. Access to the members only Discord, 20% off events, 20% off merch, an ad-free website experience, exclusive members only merch, and you also get a diehard card, which I feel like we don't talk about enough. It's very cool. So become a diehard today, join the family. Like I said, there's so many perks and reasons to become a diehard. And we had a great time yesterday too. We did a little diehard only intermission report. That was a lot of fun. So just always something for the diehards. Join the family today. And also, Desert Financial Credit Union. If you're looking for a new bank or you're uncertain about your current bank, Desert Financial Credit Union has been around for more than 84 years. It's where Craig banks. And not only do they do a great job with anything you need, checkings, savings, mortgages, loans, etc., they also are committed to giving back to the community and sharing success with its members. So when you open a free checking account online, you get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200.
And then go over to the BetMGM Sportsbook app, the official sportsbook of PHNX. Sports are more fun when you have skin in the game. I hit the goal in the first 10 minutes. Coyotes first to score. Nick Schmaltz anytime. All 3 of those I hit last night. And you can be on the edge of your seat while you watch any sporting event by getting into the game with the BetMGM Sportsbook app. Today is Parlay Day. And Leah, see if you follow along with this one. Today, this parlay is the Big Apple Parlay.
Ooh.
You ready?
Yep.
So I've got the New York Rangers money line over the Devils. I've got the New York Islanders money line over the Kings in LA, and the New York City of the North. I've got Winnipeg money line over the Washington Capitals to complete my plus 465 Big Apple parlay. Rangers, Islanders, and the Winnipeg Jets. It's easy to just sign up for the BetMGM Sportsbook app. Use the code PHNX. Place your first BetMGM Sportsbook wager through the BetMGM Sportsbook mobile application for at least $5. You will receive $150 instantly in additional winnings regardless of your wager's outcome. Check out the show notes for full details. And now, listen to our friend Damon talk about the disclaimer.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms. This promotional offer is not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico.
All right. Time to talk. What?
New York City of Canada.
Oh, that was hilarious. I was not ready. I was not ready for that.
No, when I walk to that famous intersection, I always think Times Square when I step there.
Portage in Maine. It does. It kind of has that little vibe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Well, we're going to talk about the trade deadline a little bit more. Obviously, we did a deep dive into what the deadline was for the Coyotes. If you missed that, that was one of our 2 shows last Friday. You can go back and watch or listen to that. But we haven't really talked about the trade deadlines around the league because I feel like there were some really interesting moves. A lot changed. We're only going to talk about moves that impacted Stanley Cup contenders, playoff contenders. And we're going to start by talking about, and by the way, this is our judgments, the winners and losers of the deadline. And we're going to start with the winners because let's keep the vibes high, or get the vibes high. They've been pretty low. And I'm going to run through the additions that some of these teams made. And then I'm going to open the floor for commentary from either of you, and we would like the chat to comment as well their thoughts. So these are, in our opinion, the winners of the trade deadline. First of all, the Vegas Golden Cap circumventioners.
Wow.
Mark Stone was placed on LTIR, and Vegas added Anthony Mantha, Noah Hannafin, and in a crazy last-minute blockbuster, Tomas Hertl, the Bob father, just dropping that bomb at 1 p.m. Arizona time. The Colorado Avalanche also made some big moves. They added Casey Middlestat, Sean Walker, Brandon Duhaime, and Yakov Trenin. Florida added Vladimir Tarasenko and Kyle Okposo. The New York of the North, Winnipeg, added Sean Monahan earlier this year, Tyler Toffoli, and Depth D Colin Miller. Carolina, they finally made some moves. It seems like they never have, and I almost thought that they weren't going to. Of course, added Jake Gensel and Evgeny Kuznetsov. And lastly, the Dallas Stars earlier added defenseman Chris Tanev. So those are our winners. Craig, I'll start with you.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
I love what Vegas does. I love it. I love that they thumb their nose at everyone. I know a lot of Coyotes fans are angry with Vegas because they wish they were Vegas. Honestly.
I wish, I'm
desert city that did it right.
If a Golden Knights fan said you hate us because you ain't us, I'd say yeah.
I don't hate them. I love it. I love that they.
I hate them, but like it's because of jealousy.
These are the rules. If you don't like it, then get somebody to change the rules. The rules ain't changing, by the way, because the GMs don't want to change this. This isn't going away. LTIR is staying. They're going to continue to use this to, if you want to call it cap circumvention, go ahead, but it's within the rules. Chicago did it with Patrick Kane. Tampa did it, and they won cups. Vegas is doing it now, and I love it. I love that they make people angry, especially cities north of the border. Are you gonna cry, Canada? Are you gonna cry, Petey?
I can't argue with it. The Vegas Golden Knights, to me, what they did, and they dropped the bomb on the last second. I thought they had a great trade deadline before that with Mantha and Hannafin. I think they fit into what they're doing. And the one thing about the Vegas Golden Knights, it isn't the stars, the top stars, and then everybody else. It's everybody else. That's how they win. They are what the true mentality of the pack mentality. We're all in this together. Someone fits us apart. And you saw with Jack Eichel, like you're just one of the Vegas Golden Knights. That's how they play there. And I think the pieces they added, wow, like this team is sliding in the standings a little bit. I know they're going through some uncomfortable times right now, and it is because of their adjustment to the cap and juggling some things around. If they're healthy by the cap or by the playoffs, and God knows they're going to be, just miraculously, everyone will be cured by the first game of the playoffs and no longer on LTIR. Just their doctors are just amazing. And it all happened then. This team
best medical staff of the NHL.
Unbelievable how you're going to have to contend with this team. Absolutely one of the biggest winners. But when you look at some of the other winners, I like what Florida did in that they brought Tarasenko, and he's fit right in, and he's got points right away for a team that's rolling. Carolina, surprisingly, they're 2-0 since the trade deadline, but Gensel's not there yet. Like Gensel's still a week to 10 days, maybe longer away, and I don't think you're going to see the full impact of this. The concern you have when you bring in a player like Jake Gensel is you're going to have to modify your power play. You're going to have to change the way your top line plays, and it's going to disrupt things at the top of your lineup. And you just hope that isn't very uncomfortable for very long. I wouldn't be surprised if when Gensel gets added to the roster that they lose a few games. Maybe not in a row, but maybe they go 2-2 or have a little blip, because there are a lot of adjustments when you bring in a player like that. And that's when you look at Dallas adding just Tanev. I don't think it disrupts the core of what they're trying to do.
It's their biggest need, too. It's a good move.
Yeah. So I really like what Dallas did, and I think the winners here for me are Vegas and Carolina. Period. Yeah. But I think if you're a team that is trying to win a cup, you have to show your team that you're trying to do something. And the one team you didn't. Well, are we getting to lose? Are they a loser?
No, the losers are later.
Okay, I won't say any more about losers yet then. But I like the teams that are trying to improve the needs that they have to try to win the cup. And the teams you mentioned here, Craig, all of these teams are teams that are on the cusp of winning. Winnipeg is maybe just a shade on the outside, but they added one of my favorite players in Tyler Toffoli. Yes. I think Tyler Toffoli
could have been a Coyote. Tyler Toffoli
could have been and should have been a Coyote, a right wing that can get to the net. And you know what he does? He scores. He scores goals everywhere he's been. I think he's a bit part. I think Winnipeg, surprisingly, did really well here. And I think they're going to do it under the radar. And that's a team that's going to be dangerous in the playoffs.
What about Colorado?
I was gonna mention Colorado because I think. Well, first of all, just the one comment on Carolina quickly. I feel like this is a team that continuously gets swept in the conference finals every single year, and it feels like they always run it back. It does, and the one thing that Carolina doesn't have is like crazy star power. They have Sebastian Aho. They have some unbelievable players, but you don't look at them and say, "Oh yeah, like that's a crazy offensive threat." And I do think that adding Gensel will help with that. And also, I know Evgeny Kuznetsov has had a lot of issues. He was really unhappy with his situation in Washington. He didn't handle it the best way. He obviously was just in the assistance program, and I hope that he's doing well. If Kuznetsov gets to the Kuznetsov of the past,
even close, right?
Sneaky. That's sneaky. So that's my comments on Carolina. But Colorado, I think they addressed the second line center problem, which is pretty much the thing that prevented them from repeating last season, losing Nazem Kadri, Casey Middlestat. That was a crazy trade earlier in the week. Just a 1-for-1 Bowen Byram for Casey Middlestat. Just wild. I think they addressed almost every concern except for the goaltending, but we didn't really see a lot of. I mean, we'll
get to that later.
We saw some goaltending movement around the league, but not maybe what we thought. We didn't see the big ones move, the Markstroms, etc.
Fleury, guys like that. Going back to Vegas, just to wrap up this winners segment. Vegas is doing what every fan base wants their ownership and management to do. They're trying to win by all means necessary. This is what you want your franchise to do. Does it piss off other teams? Of course it does. Who cares? You're trying to win the cup. You play the game to win. Hello? You play the game to win.
So what happens if they have one draft pick over the next 3 years? Don't care, right?
Don't care. Because you go all in for the cup.
You don't care.
If
you
go
all in for the cup.
So just to confirm, they sure as shit want to win?
They sure as shit want to win.
Yeah. There's no doubt that they sure as shit want to win.
I gotta say, it pisses me off, but wouldn't you love to be the fan base pissing everybody else off?
Buddy, with their record over the last 6 years, yes, I'll take it. The Western Conference Final 4 of your first 6 seasons, yeah, okay, I'll trade.
I have exactly one more interview with Bill Foley than I have with Alex Morello at this point. I have spoken to Bill Foley.
Were there any other winners that were not mentioned? We're going to get to the losers in a second, but did anybody feel that there were maybe any more winners that we didn't discuss?
No, and it came up in the chat too. I don't think you can be a winner if you're a seller. If you're
that's
selling,
why we said we're only going to talk about the playoff teams.
I don't care if you got some really good value back. Who gives a shit? You got a first round pick. You're not running for the cup. Who cares? Like if you're selling, you didn't win the draft. Sorry, or the trade deadline. Sorry.
All right. I love it. Oh, well, you can be a winner at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. They have the best casino experience in Arizona, in my opinion. If you've never been, check it out. We've been out to Wild Horse Pass a bunch of times, and it is a blast. They're going to have a ton of events coming up for the Final Four that first weekend in April, so stay tuned for more information on that. But not only does Gila River Resorts and Casinos have their amazing casino floors, they have great dining, they have the resorts, they have sports books. So you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details.
And then play the Arizona Lottery's newest game and promotion, the Arizona Adventure. And there are 3 ways to play and win. Scratch the Arizona Adventure Lottery tickets featuring 3 iconic landscapes, and then you can go check in at 10 geolocated adventures within the state. So you actually get a walk and talk, move, get your butt off the couch, and actually go check in to win.
Perfect weather right now. We're in the final month of tour.
Phenomenal.
Weather.
Get outside and enjoy Arizona. Find all the adventure that this state has to offer. It's easy. Just log in and go to those locations, and the geolocation will find you, and you'll be automatically checked in to help you win cash and prizes. And then you enter your tickets online for a chance to win $1 million in cash and Arizona travel prizes. The Arizona Lottery is not just about playing games and winning prizes. It is also about giving back to the state and its communities. Visit azadventure.com for more information on how you can take an adventure for the chance to win up to $1 million in cash and Arizona travel prizes.
Which member of the Vegas Golden Knights front office gave Mark Stone his lacerated spleen? Anything to win.
Come on in, son. We've got a small procedure we need to perform on you. Don't worry, it'll heal by mid-April.
All right, let's talk about the losers. Again, this is our opinion, and I'll run through them once again, and we're going to start with Detroit. And what did they do? Nothing. They did add Patrick Kane earlier in the year, but other than that, no moves at the deadline. New Jersey, they added some goaltenders. They completely redid their goalies. Capo Kakinen and Jake Allen added at the very end there. The Kings and the Islanders did nothing. We heard later that Linus Ullmark said no to a trade to LA. Boston, they added depth players Pat Maroon and Andrew Peak.
What a maroon. Sorry, I have to say it every time.
The Oilers added Adam Henrique, Sam Carrick, and our own Troy Stetcher. Toronto, they added Ilya Lyubushkin, Joel Edmondson, and Connor Dewar.
Yep.
I've never heard of him in my life. I'm so sorry. And the goalie situation. There's 4 cup contenders that we already mentioned some. Colorado, Edmonton, Toronto, and Carolina did nothing to shore up their goaltending position.
Yeah. Let's start with the Red Wings, who I did not have in the playoffs at the start of the season. We're going to have to revisit that at some time.
You like to mention that this week, you know?
I did.
I just
because for a while they were making me look really bad. But when the Detroit Red Wings woke up this morning, where were they? They were out of a playoff spot because the Islanders are red hot. And we saw Detroit, and I don't want to base things based on one game. We're going to see them again, but I was not impressed. I know Dylan Larkin was out of the lineup. He is a very important player to that lineup and a very good player, but I just don't think Detroit has it yet. And maybe it was okay that the Red Wings didn't do anything at this trade deadline, because sometimes you can say, oh, we're going to add because, we're a playoff team. Well, why? Stick with the program. Stick with the rebuild. You're building towards something. You're playing meaningful games. You're right there. You're in contention for a playoff game, for a playoff berth in the final quarter of the season. Maybe this is part of the plan for Detroit Red Wings. Maybe it's okay that they're not quite ready to take that step yet. So maybe you don't start trading off pieces when your team really isn't going to realistically do anything in the postseason.
And I think that's a really good point, because I think we talked about Ottawa, Detroit, and Buffalo in a similar breath over the summer, and the only one that came close to a playoff spot was the Detroit Red Wings. And what did they do? They brought in Patrick Kane, a guy that, people are excited. I'm telling you, people were excited, and he's a point-a-game player until when? Well, now. It's 5 straight games with no points. Kind of fallen off a little bit. I know he's been a big boost to that team. I think they felt like, hey, our ownership is trying. And I really believe that hey, they're trying to win here. They're bringing in Patrick Kane. But to your point, Craig, this reminds me a lot of some of those Coyotes teams that are from 8th to 12th. And this is no time when the eyes are planned to go all in. It's not there yet. They're not there. So hold on to your assets and continue to build this rebuild and find out direction. You don't want to give up the future for what? Making the first round and getting your ass kicked by one of these top teams in the East? No, I don't think it's worth it right now. I still think they'll tease with it. They'll get a couple wins. The Islanders will get a couple losses, and they'll be around it. But I'm with you, Craig. I don't think this team makes the playoffs this season, but they'll do better than Ottawa and Buffalo. But again, they're starting to get ready for what's happening next. And so don't sell to try to create that any faster.
I want to talk about New Jersey.
Yeah.
We heard earlier in the year that they pretty much had a Markstrom trade to New Jersey good to go, to the point that they approached him with it. They ended up not going with it. I think Markstrom was upset. This is all what I've heard from people who cover that team and cover
from
the
Markstrom
league.
Himself.
Yeah, that too.
He's been pretty vocal.
And that's been, the Devils have not had a great year, especially compared to last year, and the goaltending has been a huge part of that. And I just don't know if Kakinen and Jake Allen is going to be your 1-2 punch to put you on a run in the playoffs.
Yeah, why do it now? Why do it now?
Just wait.
They're not making the playoffs.
It's too late.
Yeah,
too late. If you're going to do it earlier. This one confuses me, because the New Jersey Devils were in the second round last year. They were good on Akira Schmid. How did he do this year? Well, he's in the American League, so that's how good he's doing. They played 2 23-year-olds. Dawes, Schmid came out, Vitek, Vinacek. They all stunk. Goaltending was their biggest problem the entire year, period. End of story. Their goaltending sucked. They'll tell you their goaltending sucked, and you know what they did? Nothing. They did nothing to do it to help them when it mattered, because you bring in 2 guys now, and Jake Allen and Kapokakinen, they're okay. Yeah, okay. But it's too late. Like,
Kakinen's a UFA after this season.
Yeah,
so, and Jake Allen's got 1 more year left. I'm just so confused. Like,
they didn't
you should have done this earlier. And when you got to this point, you just said, yeah, you know what? It's not worth doing anything now, because we're not getting into the playoffs anyway. We'll just wait and resolve this in the summer. This was bizarre.
It is bizarre. And unless the big coaching bump from Travis Green comes in and they can find a way to dig themselves out of this hole, I don't see it. They have some nice pieces there. They have some nice players. I like their speed game. I like the way they are offensively. With Hamilton being hurt for most of the season really hurt this team, and then getting the goaltending they have no chance. But if you're going to make a move like this, do it when you can still compete and still try to make the playoffs. It is way too late. It makes no sense to me to get 2 goalies now, and not just 2 goalies. Like, these guys aren't tearing up the league. Let's not kid yourself. Jake Allen and Kapokakinen, they're not. They're not top 10 in anything.
I said in our notes, the Islanders did nothing, along with the Kings, by the way, who tried to get a goaltender, Linus Ullmark, who nixed the trade.
Geographic reasons.
The Islanders did trade coaches, and in the short term, anyway, Patrick Waugh is sparking them to great heights. So we should mention that. I have my doubts about the shelf life of a guy like Patrick Waugh. I think it's short, but for the time being, the Islanders are getting themselves back into the playoff race. I look at Boston, I'm just like,
they had a weird deadline.
Yeah.
And if you watched What Chaos, and they're Boston guys, famously, What Chaos is not a Boston Bruins podcast. But they were very confused by Boston's moves at the deadline.
Pat Maroon and Andrew Peeke. In Edmonton, I mean, Adam Henrique, okay. I can see that being a useful piece, but, Sam Carrick, whatever. Troy Stetcher is going to be in and out of the lineup in the postseason. I don't know what the hell the Toronto Maple Leafs are doing either. I don't know what they're doing.
Well, I'm going to start with
the famed hater of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
The biggest one here, Craig, I understand Boston. Some of these teams have the inability because they don't have the cap room. They don't have the assets to trade away to get more capital coming back their way. And I think that's some of the problem when you look at Boston. The one that I don't understand with the Boston Bruins, and I need someone to sit down and explain it to me. This has been a team that's run a goalie tandem for several years now. And by the way, they're really good at it. And they won the Jennings Trophy last year, and they're really good. And Ullmark and Swayman have been a tandem that not only performs well, they like each other, and has been successful for this Boston Bruins team. What in the hell were you thinking? Like, what are you getting rid of Linus Ullmark for? Like, I don't. Right now, this is your chance. This is your chance to win the cup. What if you piss off Swayman? What if Swayman goes in the tank now?
They're historically best friends.
Yeah. So what happens when your 1A goes down or gets hurt, and you've got the guy you pulled in from the LA Kings that stinks? Now what? Yeah. I didn't understand it, and I know there was. If you watch the game, the Boston won their game over the weekend. They do their famous goalie hug, and it was an extra long embrace and hug. I'm sure there were some words exchanged there. I'm sure there were. Like, that had to be really emotional for Linus Ullmark. I don't understand what Boston did there. Why would you piss everybody off? Why would you piss the room off after working so hard? I don't understand. And then you do very little. And then the next one for me is Toronto. Toronto. Like, the fans, this is the year of the cup. Let's bring in Ilya Lyubushkin. He's
first round.
I like Ilya Lyubushkin. I like him a lot. But you didn't address the needs you had. And again, what's their biggest need? We just said it before. It's goaltending. Didn't address it.
Let's get to the goalies then. Like, why do you think that there wasn't much movement other than New Jersey snatching up 2 goaltenders after they needed them?
I don't know if the price gets too high. I don't know if there were who's on that market that the people were trying to get. Like, there's just no movement there. But again, it doesn't go back to the trade deadline for me at Toronto. This is a problem they knew about a long time ago. Now, Carolina,
like a decade ago.
Yeah, exactly. It's been that long. Like, I don't know, Felix the Cat Potvin. I don't know if you go back that far. Peter Ing. Like, it's been a long time in Toronto. So I think there are issues there. But people are talking about Carolina's goaltending issues. Well, Freddie Anderson just came back, and I say what you want. I like Freddie Anderson, and I think if Toronto would have kept Freddie Anderson, they'd be having a much better opportunity at trying to win a Stanley Cup now than after getting rid of Freddie Anderson. But Toronto picked up a couple of penalty killers and a lower pair D. Is it enough to get you through the onslaught of teams that they have to get through? Like, no, they got to go. Their first matchup is going to be Florida or Boston.
Eesh.
Like, that's it. You know now. I can tell you 17 games out, Toronto Maple Leafs are going to have to play Boston Bruins or the Florida Panthers in round 1. How is that treating you?
To quote you, au revoir, bonsoir.
Au revoir, bonsoir. But to quote Paul Bissonnette, well, they want to fight with Bertuzzi, so they're coming. They're coming. They lost Boston twice, 4-1, 4-1, but they want to fight. Boston's licking their chops to play the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm telling you right now, they can't wait to play Toronto in the first round, because you don't think the Boston Bruins are going to ramp themselves up. And I don't know if history proves anything. Toronto struggles against the Boston Bruins. I don't know if you want to talk about Game 7, that they were ahead in the third period with minutes to go and they lose. Like, this is a hard hill for Toronto to climb to get over the Boston Bruins. I think they need to do more. I think that they make a bigger splash. But again, it's salary cap and lack of assets.
Petey, you kind of answered this question already when you said if you're a seller, you can't really be a winner or loser. But I know we talked about the moves Arizona made on Friday, but Arizona Coyotes, trade deadline winner or loser? Or nothing?
I think it's fair to say that it was disappointing that they didn't get more of a return, but we explained why they didn't get more of a return. But am I going to call a team loser because they didn't get a 3rd round draft pick instead of a 4th or 5th round draft? Yeah, no, I don't care.
No, I don't think we can go as far as saying a loser. It is a disappointment. I think when they acquired these assets in the summer, and we're talking Zucker and Dumba most notably, I think the expectation was that they were going to bring a bigger return. I think that's why they're so attractive to Bill Armstrong, is that these are guys that the expectations were they were going to be at minimum a 3rd round draft pick, and maybe Dumba has a great year and becomes a 2nd. Like who knows what they could have got if these guys had the season they were hoping for. They just didn't. It's not necessarily GM Bill Armstrong's fault that these guys didn't have the years that they were hoping for.
And he couldn't retain salary, so.
Yeah, and if you can retain salary, you've seen that all over the internet. If you're not retaining salary, they could have moved up and had a better pick if they retained some of that salary, and it just wasn't going to happen. So it's almost like like I don't even know, get winner or loser. It's just like,
Chad said meh.
Yeah, meh.
Yeah,
it didn't matter. It was
almost like indifferent. Not indifferent, but like meh. Yeah, the meh scale. So there you go. Well, there's still 17 games to go in this season for the Coyotes, and we're going to make the most of it, especially the game on Sunday, March 24th against the Dallas Stars, because we are taking over the game, and you heard it here first. There was only one takeover ticket remaining. So that takeover ticket to the game includes the game ticket and the pregame party. There's one. However, there are still tickets available to just the pregame party. You can buy either or. So there's still plenty of tickets available for the pregame party. Hey, look, Petey,
they didn't cut us out of the photo this time.
I know.
You made it. There's still tickets available to the pregame party. Those tickets include food or drinks if you have season tickets, if you're already planning on going to the game, if you can't make the game, if you'd rather just watch the game at Four Peaks. Buy a ticket to the pregame party. It starts at 3 p.m. at Four Peaks at the 8th Street Pub on Sunday, March 24th.
Attendees and a beer.
Oh, yeah. We cannot wait. Come down. Come hang out with us.
40 people last time.
Yeah, last time it was a blast. So we really want to see you all there. And again, just one game ticket remaining. But everybody come out to the Coyotes Takeover on Sunday, March 24th. It's going to be a ton of fun. Just less than 2 weeks away. So get ready. All right. Well, before we wrap up, I want to wish a very happy birthday to Paul Bissonnette and Tyson Nash. They share a birthday.
Should we sing to him?
No.
Wow, you guys have no fun. Happy birthday to you. No? Happy birthday to you. No?
Go ahead, Craig.
Happy birthday, dear Biz Nashty.
Oh, boy.
Happy birthday to you. There it is.
All right, Craig. Bravo. Oh, man. All right. Any final thoughts on our...
Thank you, Petey.
Very nice. Any final thoughts on anything we talked about today or anything we didn't talk about today before we wrap up here?
I can't wait to see what of these trade deadline moves. We're talking about these things 3 or 4 days out. I can't wait till we're talking about them 2 and 3 months out. I can't wait to see when we're getting to the end of March and we're into the Eastern and Western finals. We're going, oh my gosh, this guy really made a difference. Or that guy they picked up late, what a difference that guy made to this roster. I'm so excited for playoffs right now. Like this playoffs right now is like Vegas.
I agree. I'm pumped.
Yeah.
But you're right too. Like Vegas. Everything we just did on this show.
Yeah.
Is silly.
Who cares?
Silly because we have no idea whether they're going to pan out or not. Nope. No idea whatsoever, which is why grades are stupid. How any of these judgments are just stupid, but we do them because, we like the clicks. We like the clicks. Anyway, thank you, Robert Lee. Thank you for the compliment and keep running, buddy. Thank everybody for joining us today. This was fun today.
Yeah, actually. It was fun.
There's a breath of fresh air after last night.
And also, and it does feel like it's good once in a while to kind of just take stock of things across the league and here in Arizona too. So I felt like that's what we did today. Everybody hit the thumbs up button on this video. Again, if you're listening on audio, hit the little 5-star review, leave us a 5-star review, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. We'll have an audio only episode coming out later in the week as well as every week. So plenty of reasons to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts as well. And yeah, you can follow us on Twitter at @SPetersHockey, at Craig S. Morgan, at Leah Merrill, at Abraca Danielle. You can follow the show on Twitter at PHNX_Coyotes. We will be live tomorrow after the Coyotes take on the Minnesota Wild. Early games, they're on the Central and Eastern time zones, which we are
Pacific
huge
rules.
fans of. So it's going to be a good week. Everybody, make sure you subscribe to the PHNX Sports YouTube channel so you never miss when we go live. What's the hat? It's Locomotive.
Yeah, where Daniel Boot and Dmitry Simashev are playing right now.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yaroslava Locomotive,
Future.
which has an incredible history.
Future.
Ilya Lyubushkin played there as well. Dave
Great.
King coached there.
Future. So many Coyotes ties.
Yep.
Anyway, thanks so much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, and we will see you all tomorrow.
Y'all silly like the mayor.